So greetings from Pennsylvania once again, and more specifically we're here in Perry County, and we're going to visit the Box Huckleberry Natural Area as part of our series to get to all the natural areas here in Pennsylvania. So it's right off this side here. Let me show you around. So this is Huckleberry Road, appropriately named. Just up that way is Route 274 in the town of New Bloomfield, and this is the natural area right here. There's a kind of a pull off here. There used to be a sign up here, but it's not here anymore, so you can kind of miss it. There's a road up here called Arbutus Lane. So if you get to that, you know you're where you need to be. Yeah, I feel like there used to be a sign here, but it's gone now. But you can see the steps, the trail going up here. So this is one of the smallest natural areas here in Pennsylvania. It's only about 10 acres, but it's a unique spot. Yeah, the signs are gone altogether. Oh, actually, I think they're right up here. Yeah. They should have something down by the road there, though. Yeah. Yeah, its longer name is the Hoverter and Scholl Box Huckleberry area, but there you go. Yeah, and speaking of box huckleberry, they're growing right down here. We'll talk about what they are in a moment, why it's called the Box Huckleberry Natural Area. Well, obviously it's because they grow here, but as we've talked about in the past, these natural areas usually they're designated as natural areas due to a unique ecological feature or geologic feature or a scenic feature. And this one is due to a unique ecological feature, which is the box huckleberry. So there are some trails here. You can go that way, but there's some signs up here too. Box Huckleberry Nature Trail that way. So I think we're going to follow the Yellow Blaze Trail down this way. I think, if I remember reading the trails, it's pretty short, maybe about a quarter mile long. It's not a very long trail. But all growing throughout here on the ground, these low-lying plants along the edge here. These are all box huckleberries. They're very small. Give it all these plants right here. These are all the box huckleberry growing through here, all the way down the hillside there, all the way up through the woods. And they're all part of one single colony. They spread by the root systems. They don't often spread by seed. We'll talk about that later. So this is all kind of like one, almost like one big plant, covering about 4 acres here. Spreads clonally, or asexually, in science terms. So what are huckleberries? Well, they're very similar to blueberries. We all know what blueberries are. Not a whole lot of difference between blueberries and huckleberries. If I remember correctly, huckleberries have harder seeds in the middle. Like when you eat blueberries, you don't really think too much about the seeds. They're pretty soft and you just swallow them. But huckleberries have much more harder seeds that are more noticeable. Like if you actually eat a huckleberry, you end up like, spitting the seeds out. So just think of, if you're trying to picture what these huckleberries are, just picture little miniature blueberry plants. When I was here last time, there were little tiny huckleberries on them. And there are all different kinds of wild huckleberries and blueberries throughout the woods of Pennsylvania. Different kinds. The box huckleberry, as you can tell, is very small. And they are considered very rare, almost endangered, if not endangered, just because they're not very common anymore. Probably centuries ago, before the settlers came and cleared the land for farms and logging, it was probably a lot more common. Because like I said, they very rarely reproduce by seed. Most only just spread clonally through the roots and stuff. But they're described at different times throughout the years, throughout the decades, the centuries, by different explorers and biologists who came to explore Pennsylvania. And here's a sign for it. Box Huckleberry Site. It's been registered a natural landmark, 1967. Yeah, it did get protection at one point. which is needed because it was in danger of being destroyed actually. And another thing that makes this site unique in these plants here is that they are potentially, depending on where you read, 800 to 1300 years old, this colony of huckleberries. We'll talk about how they can determine that. If you remember, if you study tree rings, you know, tree rings, if you count the tree rings, they tell you how old the tree is. Because if you remember your biology, you know, a tree, every year a tree grows a little wider, and that's what those tree rings are. But the thing is, those tree rings are not the same width every year. If they're very small in width, that means it didn't grow that much. But if those tree rings are very wide, that means it was a good year for the tree. So kind of same idea with this colony of huckleberries. Every year, the colony will spread a little bit further via their roots. You know, they'll grow a little more out that way. And using that, they can kind of gauge how old the colony is, although it's not necessarily the most accurate way of doing things. Just like different trees, sometimes you might see a smaller tree and think it's really young, but sometimes that's just because that tree grows very slowly. It doesn't necessarily mean, the size of the tree doesn't always tell you how old it is. So it's going to be similar with these colonies. But like I said, they venture maybe 800 to 1300 years old for this colony. Yes, as we're walking down this trail, we've just gone past the colony. Here the last one growing here. There's actually one growing out this way. This is kind of the border here. Over here there's no box huckleberry. Over here there is. It's these little ones right here. So every year they're going to spread out just a little bit more. Like this guy. Who knows how old, you know, how long it took them to spread this way, but you can kind of see the line going up through there. And that's their main way of spreading. Kind of a nice little trail through here too. Yeah, we'll talk in a moment why they don't spread via seeds. Although I did find some inaccuracies with that information, but we'll talk about that. Time to get a little sciencey about things. Of course, different plants reproduce different ways. You know, when it comes to trees and plants, sometimes, like, let's take with trees for example, some trees have male and female flowers on the same tree. You know, but some tree species, like the pawpaw trees, which are my favorite trees, they're separate male and female trees. And even ones that have, you know, some trees and plants can fertilize themselves. Like a lot of pea plants are self-fertilizing, they'll fertilize themselves. But some plants, even though the male and female flowers are on the same plant or tree, they will not fertilize themselves. They need to be fertilized by another tree or another plant of that same species. So, and it's kind of like that with the box huckleberry, but on a broader scale. Since this whole colony is basically the same plant, probably, it cannot fertilize itself. It needs to be fertilized by another colony from somewhere else. But the problem with that is that there's no colony nearby. There is one a number of miles away from here. We'll talk about that one later, but it's not near enough to fertilize the flowers in this colony here. So they really don't produce fertile seeds. That's the problem for the box huckleberry these days, which kind of limits its range and its ability to spread. But I did find some evidence that that's not entirely true, that maybe 95+% of the seeds that are produced are not fertile. Because the one guy that came to this area did try to germinate some of the seeds, and they did germinate, although they seemed pretty unhealthy to him. So there's a possibility that the vast majority of the seeds will be infertile, but perhaps some might be, a small percentage. That's the way it is with some plants though. You're back into box huckleberry zone now. Looks like there's a sign up here. For the trail. Oh, the halfway point. So we could go back that way, but I think let's go up this way. But there is another site nearby. When I say nearby, I mean a couple miles back towards the Juniata River, the Losh Run or Losh Run, I'm not sure how you say it. But that site was even bigger and theoretically older than this site. Some articles wanted to say it was like 13,000 years old, that colony, which is probably a little bit of wishful thinking. Probably not that old. Like I said, it's impossible to tell anymore because unfortunately most of it was destroyed. They built, when they redid Route 322 through the area, they destroyed most of it back in the 1970s. There's only fragments of it left, so they can't really study it anymore to the extent of what it was when it was bigger. So we'll never really know, because the one webpage is like it's the oldest living organism in the world or something like that, but they don't really know for sure. Like I said, sometimes when they gauge the age of things, scientists get a little too eager when it gets to how old things actually are. If it actually was that old, it would be receiving a whole lot more attention than that. And you gotta be careful when you read those articles, because it'll say, you know, some estimates put it at, you know, 13,000. So that means that some estimates don't put it at that age. So you gotta kind of read into those articles. But it's still, I'm not trying to downplay the box huckleberry, but you gotta kind of read into those articles sometimes. Right, there's actually no box huckleberries here. Lots of poison ivy. Looks like the trail goes off that way, but we'll keep this way. And it does grow in other states too, in other states, other part of the Appalachian Mountains, Tennessee and places like that, North Carolina. In fact, I think they just discovered a new colony in North Carolina in 2003, which they think started by seed, which kind of goes against that idea that they don't reproduce by seed, but anyway. So they are in other states, but they're like I said, they're kind of fragmented, those colonies. I think I remember there's some being out in Bedford County in Pennsylvania too, but I forget. Anyway. And this colony here was in danger at one point. It used to be larger, but at some point, like, people started to come and take the box huckleberry plants. There's none growing right here. We're kind of outside the colony at the moment. I see them down in there. Yeah, like one guy that worked at a local nursery, you know, plant nursery, he came and just dug up a whole truckload of them, probably to sell to people. So this colony was in danger of just pretty much being destroyed until it was, you know, protected, received that protection. Here they are, and I can see them growing in there. It's like kind of that carpet of them. Yeah, right on the edge, right here they are, box huckleberries. It's like on this side of the trail they're growing, but there's none on this side of the trail. So I wonder if this trail will act like this trail almost will act like a barrier to keep them from spreading. You know, people keep walking through here. It's like they've come, these little ones have grown right up to the path. Remember, they spread by the roots. Every year they spread a little bit more. You can see how many of them are in there. There's none over here. Actually, here they are. They have come over here. Maybe that was before the trail. Anyway. Beautiful area. Easy trails to hike if you want to come check it out. You know, walk among, you know, the plants that are even older than the trees here. Yeah, it's kind of odd. You know, you think you see a big tree like this big pine tree, which could be 100 years old, but these little tiny, well, not tiny, but these little small box huckleberry plants are potentially older than a tree. Probably not this individual one. Like I said, they spread by the roots. So there might not be. That's the thing you got to consider when they say this is potentially that this box huckleberry plant is potentially 800 to 1300 years old. They don't necessarily mean any one individual plant growing up from the roots. Yeah, because you got to consider that the original plant that grew here, the original seedling that grew here, is probably not here anymore from that time, from that long ago. Because like I said, oh hello, there's a bee here. Because they spread. Hold on a second. All right, bee is gone. Since I said, like, they spread by the roots, so they're constantly sending up new plants. but the original one is kind of gone. So it's a bit deceiving as well. You know, it's not that this plant right here is, you know, 1,000 years old. So keep that in mind. It's more like the colony has been here for that long, or somewhere around that time frame. But a neat little spot to consider. If it wasn't for the research of some of those botanists that first came here, it would have taken people a lot longer to learn about this plant. I think the one botanist was Andre Michaud, French botanist who Michaud State Forest is named after. And then there was another guy with the last name of Bard. I think Michaud visited here in the 1840s, and Bard in the early 1900s. Looks like there's another trail going up this way, so maybe we'll see what time it is. I do have somewhere I need to be later, but we got time. Maybe we'll go up this way, look around a little bit more. Yeah, so like I said, you know, the vast majority, if not all the seeds produced here will not germinate, but I kind of wondered why they don't, I feel like they could help the plants, you know, if they would get pollen from another colony and use it to fertilize the flowers in here, they could produce, you know, more viable seeds and plant these huckleberries elsewhere. Or even dig up some of them, you know, carefully and stuff, and plant them elsewhere so they grow in other places too, so not just confined to just small areas like this. Because definitely if you would crossbreed them with another colony, like I said, you would make viable seeds, and then you could have other colonies that are closer to this colony, and then maybe they would spread more naturally once again. Seems like a plan, at least to me. I'm not sure. They probably have all kinds of other stuff they need to do too. Anyway, but don't think about coming here and digging them up yourself, though. This is a protected area. But once again, you can see them just growing. It's all these plants in through here, on both sides of the trail here. Alright, might be time to turn back. It looks like this just takes you up to a house. Yeah. Alright, we'll turn around and head back. So to some people, a spot like this may not be all interesting, like, oh, it's just a bunch of blueberry-like plants, you know, who cares? But if you're a plant nerd like me, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, you don't have to be a plant nerd to like this spot. It's kind of like a neat area. It's really good that it's preserved. Like I said, the other spot to the east of your Loesch Run, I mean, that's a shame. It was a rare plant, really old. It was destroyed just to make a highway. So I'm not really sure why, if they just didn't know about it, or there was not an outcry made about it, but anyway. There are some of those plants left, but they're on private property and kind of scattered. This place is protected now. Cool. Yeah, so definitely come check this place out. It has nice trails. You know, unlike the last natural area that we visited, Ruth Zimmerman Natural Area, this one has trails, which makes sense because it does protect these rare plants to have a trail. It's not difficult to get to. Like you said, you park right next to it, and there's just it's nice, easy trails. It just might be a little hard to find because there's no sign right down by the road for it. I feel like there used to be when I was here the first time, but that ought to be fixed because you can drive right past it. But like I said, I'll show you. It's right there. This is Huckleberry, and then there's that, was it, Arbutus Lane. So if you can find that, you can find where to park here. So definitely worth a visit if you're in the area. And you can eat these huckleberries. When I was here last time, I found one little one. I'm not sure if they've flowered yet. Well, it's June. Today's June 8th. But I don't see any little huckleberries. I ate one last time I was here. I'm not sure if you're supposed to or not, but I don't think it matters because, like, the seeds are not, for the most part, not viable, so you're not hurting the plant by eating the huckleberries. I'm down here at the beginning of the trail again. I'm just looking for a huckleberry. I don't really see any. So, alright. Okay. Yeah, right down there's the road again. Yeah, I'm parked up there. Some other folks have joined me. It's a Saturday. Once again, there's the sign for it up here. Yeah, once again, it's there's a sign for it up here. Well, not for the park, but for the Arbutus Lane is what you want to look for. Of course, this is a private drive, so don't park here. It's Arbutus Lane, and this is Huckleberry. So if you can find this, right there's where you park. And right up there's the trail. But that'll be it then for this video, folks, and for another visit to the Box Huckleberry Natural Area. Like I said, if you live in the area and you get a chance to visit, by all means you should. Kind of walking amongst an old plant. Alright, I've got places to go though, folks. As always, thanks for coming along. Thanks for visiting another one of Pennsylvania's natural areas with me. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one.